Hey kids, and welcome to the second week of school. This week is International Dot Day. The Dot is one of my favorite books, and it is one of my favorite projects to do in art class because it lets us be creative and it lets us use our imagination. Today we're going to be making our own dot based on the book The Dot.
The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," she said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." Her teacher smiled. "Just make a mark and see where it takes you." Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good strong jab. There. Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. "Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name." The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. I can make a better dot than that." She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. She mixed the blue with the yellow. She discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors. "If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too." Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Sign it." The end.
Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the book The Dot. I think it's an awesome book.
They be like, "Hey Brandon, what you got on?" "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart." That's
Flash. Yeah. Now that you know how my eyes be, I'm rocking Caesar with Nike, but you know me, I'm low.
Hey again, I wanted to show you guys my Vashti. So I made this last year and I actually painted him on paper. So I actually have a Vashti in my classroom. So when you guys come back, you'll get to see Vashti in real life. Here she is with all of her beautiful dots that she drew. I can't wait for us to make some dots today.
For today's project, you'll need a pencil with an eraser, a piece of paper, and some sort of round object that you can draw, such as a baseball, a basketball, a bouncy ball. Some sort of ball would be perfect. Anything that is circular and round, kind of like a dot. Today we will be learning how to draw objects in the round or in three-dimensional spaces on a piece of paper. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this project.
Go get your supplies and come on back.
Here is an example of appropriate lighting for your object to be placed in. So you guys can see that I see a light on top of it. That is from the light that's shining down, and you can see a shadow. That is perfect because that gives you one more thing to draw, that shadow. Because when we're drawing 3D shapes, we want to make sure we are getting all the lighting right and we're getting the shadows right. All right, so now let's learn how to draw this. Okay guys, so I have my object sitting right in front of me in the lighting that I want to see it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the object for a couple minutes to start. By doing this, I am defining where things are, where light hits, and where light is dark. When I'm looking at it, I'm looking for those dark and light areas. This is going to help me when I'm sketching out my object. And actually, I decided I think I'm going to do it in a crayon so you guys can see it better. I'm going to use a gray crayon, so it's kind of like the same color as a pencil. So I'm going to use a gray crayon. So if you guys have a gray crayon, feel free to use that too. Or you could use any color if you want to. Personally, when I'm starting, I think pencil works best because you can erase your mistakes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle very lightly to start. Now, your sphere might not be a perfect circle, so make sure you are looking at your object when you are doing this. Now, the first thing that I see when I'm looking at my object is I see that it's darker on this side than it is on this side because the light is coming in from this direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some shading. Now, I'm just doing this by lightly drawing because you can always go darker, but you can't always go lighter because sometimes it will not be able to erase perfectly. So I know that it's really dark right here, so I'm going to go a little darker there. And I'm just going to fill that in really nicely. Now over here I know it's starting to get lighter, so I'm going to lightly color it in, making sure that I'm not getting too dark. Awesome, so here is my piece now. Now you're starting to see that it looks more round. It looks like it's in the round. It looks like it's not just a picture on a piece of paper. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep adding shading where I see dark spots on my circle. And I'm also going to keep adding light spots up by just lightly coloring, because you don't want any spot to just be pure white unless it is a highlight. A highlight would be those lights that you see that are bright on the top of your object that are coming directly from the light. All right, so I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to lightly fill in my shape. Notice that you guys can probably barely even see that, but if I pull it up close, you can see very light drawing. So I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to darken up the areas that I want to get a little bit darker. So I see a dark spot right here. And it's also pretty dark down here. Let's see, where else do I see a dark spot? I also see a dark spot over on this side. And remember, I'm going light to start. I can always go darker, but I can't always go lighter. So make sure you take your time and don't just rush to get so dark right away. You don't need to do that. Now look, it's starting to look like it's actually a round shape. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create that shadow that was underneath my shape. So I'm going to look at the shadow, and I'm just going to try and draw where it is. That looks about right for mine. Now the shadows are obviously darker, but still start light. You don't want to get too dark, and that is the most important part when you are drawing three-dimensional objects. You want to start light. You can always get darker. Always remember that you can always get darker. Now that I have done my little shadow on the bottom, I am going to get it a little bit darker because it is darker. So make sure you are always, always, always looking and watching your object. Looking at your object is more important than looking at the paper. Because if you start to imagine things in your head about how it looks, it'll start to look unproportional. Unproportional means not proportionally correct. So it will start to look like it is not actually a real object. Now in areas where I see my darkest dark, which would be the darkest color that you see, or darkest shade you would see on your object, I'm going to really press down. At this point, you should know where these areas are by looking at your object. So I'm going to press down really good and make sure that those areas are my deepest shadows. These are called shadows. I think I said that before. But shadows are those dark areas and highlights are the light areas. So up here, you guys can see, let me show you closer. Up here on my object, you can see it's very light. That's because that's where the light is hitting my object. So I'm actually going to take my eraser and I'm going to actually try to erase a little bit up there to see if I can get it even lighter. Yeah, that worked a bit. And then I'm just going to go back and make sure that my darker areas are actually dark. Because earlier, remember, I told you to be a little bit lighter with your coloring utensil or your drawing utensil. But now is the point where if you need to go back and make it a little bit darker, that's totally cool. So remember, I'm looking at my object at all times. I'm making sure that everything I'm doing corresponds to the way my object looks. And there, now I have created a three-dimensional circle on a piece of paper. Once you guys are all finished, and you guys don't have to finish after this. If you want to keep practicing, if you want to do a lot of them all over your page, that's fine. You could do a small one, you could do a really big one, you could get more paper, you could get different objects, you could get squares, or you could get a container that looks like this. You could do all sorts of things. So I want to challenge you guys to create this object that I told you and to try another one. It's okay if this is all you can get to this week, but know that this is a practice that takes time to perfect. It will take a long time for us to get this right, but we're gonna work on this a lot this year. We're gonna work on very nice, realistic drawings. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to sign my name just like Vashti did. I'm gonna use a black crayon, so it's a little darker than my picture. I'm gonna sign Miss Combs, just like Vashti did on her dots. And there, my artwork is completed. Now, I think this turned out really nice. I really like the way my circle looks. What you're gonna do now is take a picture and send it to me on the Google form. So I think you guys did a great job today. I can't wait to see your drawings. I hope that I can challenge you guys to try some more of these over the next few weeks. They're a lot of fun once you get the hang of them. But I can't wait till I can see you guys in person again until we can work on it together. All right, bye kids.
I hope you guys had a great time working on your dots today. Make sure that you take a picture and that you submit it to your correct Google form. Remember, Google Forms this week are sorted by grades, so make sure that you submit it to your grade's Google form. Don't forget to check what school that you go to so I know where to grade your work. I'm so proud of you guys. You're doing an awesome job. Thanks for coming to art class today, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Bye!